computer. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latanya Smith, also known as Miss LT to the kids, Coach LT or LT to the adults. And I am the CEO and founder of Speak Life to Youth and Children, SLIC International. And today we're doing a class on our Youth Awareness and Safety program. And our presenter is also our treasurer for the board, but she's a certified counselor, therapist, and all of that. And she's going to explain her titles and all of that. She also has started her own business. She will also talk about that. Her name is Mrs. Syreeta Smith. For those, you can go to our website, www.slickinternational.com, and to learn more about us. And if you would like to donate, you can donate through our website. You can donate through Cash App, $SPEAK, capital SPEAK, the number 4, capital S, capital L, capital Y, capital C. We are doing a lot of things. We have a lot of things planned for this year. So get the word out about us. Please donate if you can. This video is being recorded as well, and it will be on YouTube within the next 2 hours after this session is over. So without further ado, Mrs. Syreeta Smith, and you take it away, Syreeta.
Okay, hello. I know everyone is on the line right now, but for those who do not know who I am Syreeta Smith. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I attended Mercer University for my bachelor degree in human services with a concentration of mental health. And I went on to Walden to get my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. I started out working locally in Georgia at a place called Willowbrook. It's through a hospital system named Tanner. I worked in group therapy with children and some adults, but I wanted to go a little deeper because in group therapy, people really don't share intimate details about themselves. So I went into to do individual therapy. And this individual therapy was still at the same hospital system, Tanner, where I learned more skills about how to go deeper. And I took additional classes to help with young people. And wanting to work with young people, I realized that to help children, you also have to help their parents. Mental health can be distressing to parents, especially if they're not experiencing the same things, so they don't really understand it. So I work closely with parents to help them understand what their children are going through. I also work with adults, men, women, the elderly. So with this title, as some people I know on the line who work with mental health, it's hard to just specialize in one area. You can say that you just want to work with children, but it's a wide world out there. And the more you help children, the more you'll want to help everybody else. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before I did a segment on anxiety and stress. And because of what's going on with COVID and gas prices and pending wars and all this stuff, I realized that we need to talk about depression too, because depression is very prevalent right now, especially when they started out with COVID and everybody had to isolate. There's one of the bad things that happen is people don't see you. You're off to yourself and you're suffering in silence. So I want to shed light on depression. Also, signs of suicide. We're hearing about it more and more these days. People who feel so overwhelmed that they can't see past tomorrow. So I want to touch on that as well, what to look for and how to help someone. Okay, so we'll get started. All right, depression. Let's go over an overview of the clinical definition of what depression is. Now, the picture to the side you guys may see is a picture with a lot of different people. So depression does not just appear in Caucasian people, African-American people, Indian, Native Americans. It's worldwide. It doesn't discriminate against age, race, religion, or anything. It can pop up anywhere, okay? So it is the persistent feeling of sadness or loss of interest in character, and characterizes major depression, can lead to a range of behavioral and and physical symptoms. So what this means is it's a persistent feeling of sadness. I know a lot of times we get sad because we can't play with our friends, or we can't go to the skating ring, or we can't, buy something that we really want. Our parents won't get it for us, and you may feel sad. Let's say you had a friend and now they don't want to be your friend anymore and they're playing with someone else, okay? These are reasons why you may feel sad. You may have a breakup if you're older. You may break up with someone who you really liked. You like them more, they like you. These are things that cause people to be sad in general terms. However, when it's persistent, I'll go over what persistent means a little later, but it lasts longer than a day or two, okay? With these symptoms, it may include changes in sleep. So it may be an appetite. So you may eat too much, not eat enough, or sleep too much, or not get enough sleep. It's hard for you to concentrate. It affects your daily behavior or your self-esteem. It can also be associated with thoughts of suicide. Now, people who experience depression may also experience anxiety. For example, let's say you're depressed and you really don't feel like talking to anyone. So people text you and you don't text them back. Or you have an assignment due and you really don't feel like doing it. These situations will cause you to feel anxious, because are they still my friends because I didn't text them back? Are they going to be upset with me? Now my grades are low. I'm missing an assignment. So that causes you to feel stress and anxiety. Okay, apathy. Apathy will be explained later because that's not a word that we use a lot in language. General discontent, like I'm just not happy and I don't know why. Guilt, you're guilty, you feel guilty because I'm not responding in the same way I used to. Hopelessness, I can't see past this problem. Like this is the end all be all. Like how am I going to get better? I can't even see myself getting any better. Loss of interest in pleasure in activities. Okay, maybe you love watching movies, maybe you love hanging with your friends, but now all of a sudden you really don't want to do that anymore. Mood swings. You're happy, but all of a sudden you're sad, or you can't stay happy. Sadness, agitation. A lot of times people don't put agitation like irritability or anger with depression, but because of lack of communication, because we don't talk about our problems generally, some people don't. If you're holding these things in, it will sometimes come out to look like aggression or aggravation. Excessive crying, just at the drop of a dime or a hat, like something happens and all of a sudden you're crying over something that you probably wouldn't cry about any other time. Restlessness, social isolation, early awakening, you're just up, laying in bed. Excess sleepiness, that means that you're sleepy and tired just all the time. Insomnia, meaning that you're not getting enough sleep. You're restless in your sleep. Let's say that you go to sleep, but you keep waking up. Excessive hunger, excessive fatigue, loss of appetite, lack of concentration, slowness in activity, thoughts of suicide, weight gain or weight loss. You may have a poor appetite or repeatedly going over thoughts, okay? At this point, I'm gonna ask you if you have any questions, but I promise you that there will be a video for those who don't learn by reading material or hearing it. You'll be able to see it. Any questions so far? All right. Apathy. Okay, here we go. So with apathy, I'm going to read the top part. It says symptoms of depression in children may include apathy, irritability, and persistent sadness. Okay, so apathy means feeling indifferent or lacking emotion, often a sign of depression. So you're kind of ambivalent, meaning that you're just, meh. That's how the kids usually explain it. Meh, you're not happy, you're not sad, you just are, you're in between. Apathy can be normal. You can be bored, so you just don't have an emotion at this time. And it's only an indicator for an underlying disease, meaning that it's only a problem when it becomes excessive, all consuming, and it interferes with your daily life. So excessive means all the time. It's just that you don't feel a feeling all the time. Maybe it's just taking over you. You can't get happy about, let's go get ice cream or let's go to the movie. So you're just like, you know, and it interferes with your daily living, meaning that it's starting to spill over into school. It's happening at home when you're out with your friends. Let's say you go out to eat with someone, or you go to a gathering, like a family get together, and you feel alone and just, in the room with everybody, Next slide is about depression in adolescents and adults, okay? Now, I'm gonna play a video, but keep in mind, some unresolved issues may carry over into teenage years and even adulthood. That means you may have some things going on in your childhood that you maybe didn't talk to anybody about. Things like, I moved and now I don't have any friends and I feel different in this place. It may be an extreme difference. Let's say you lived in Alaska and then you moved to Georgia. So you're not used to this way of life. Maybe your parents gotten divorced and you really didn't tell them how you felt about it. You're missing your mom being at the house or your dad being at home, and things are just not the same. Or maybe you were abused. You were beaten by someone or touched in the wrong way, and you didn't really talk about it. So you're holding these things in. You don't talk to your parents. You don't talk to any family members, or you don't talk to your school counselor. And now you're a teenager and you're having problems with getting along with people, or even opening up and talking about your emotions. It can carry over into adulthood also. It can affect how you parent your kids when you're an adult. It can affect how you perform at work, It is important to know that there is not always a trigger or a situation to make someone depressed. It could be in your DNA. Let's say your parents have money, you have all the things you need, all the things you want, and you're just not happy. And parents will adopt children and they'll give them all the best opportunities and everything. And sometimes they feel guilty about even bringing up that they're sad, because they shouldn't be. They feel like they shouldn't be because they have more going on than other people. So let's watch this video.
Do you feel like you just can't get happy? Are you finding you're pulling away from friends? Do you sometimes sit in your room in the dark, not even realizing how many hours have passed? Depression can affect anyone, especially teens. About 20% of all teens experience depression before they reach adulthood. That's a worrying statistic. When singer Will Smith's daughter, came out and said she suffered with depression, the comments at the bottom of many articles were attacking her, saying, "What have you got to be depressed about?" A lot of people don't understand that mental illnesses don't discriminate between age or circumstance. Often, depression is even more difficult to recognize in young people than adults, because as a teen, you experience so many changes at this stage in your life. But the longer you feel this way, the more likely it's going to disrupt your life and turn into a long-term problem. So Psych2Go shares with you 5 ways to recognize depression. 1. Continuous low mood or sadness. Do you often feel very sad and low for a prolonged period of time? If you're feeling this way, things that normally lift your mood won't bring the same joy and happiness. You may feel
Syreeta,
low.
are we supposed to see the video?
Oh, you're not seeing the video?
No, you just hear the audio.
Oh, okay. Well, how do I fix that problem?
I think you just have to share your other screen. So do share screen and then click the one that the video is shared off of. Or it could be frozen and you just have to reshare your screen.
That sounds very simple. Let's see. Let's try this. Stop sharing the screen, and then I'll do it again.
Do you feel like you just can't get happy?
Can you see
Are
it
you
now?
finding you're pulling
Yes, we
away
can see
from
it now.
friends?
Thank you.
Sometimes sit in your room in the dark, not even realizing how many hours have passed. Depression can affect anyone, especially teens. About 20% of all teens experience depression before they reach adulthood. That's a worrying statistic. When singer Will Smith's daughter, came out and said she suffered with depression, the comments at the bottom of many articles were attacking her, saying, "What have you got to be depressed about?" A lot of people don't understand that mental illnesses don't discriminate between age or circumstance. Often, depression is even more difficult to recognize in young people than adults. Because as a teen, you experience so many changes at this stage in your life. But the longer you feel this way, the more likely it's going to disrupt your life and turn into a long-term problem. So Psych2Go shares with you 5 ways to recognize depression. 1. Continuous low mood or sadness. Do you often feel very sad and low for a prolonged period of time? If you're feeling this way, things that normally lift your mood won't bring the same joy and happiness. You may feel low or cry for no specific reason. It's a good time to reach out and talk to someone. 2. Being irritable or intolerant of others. Irritability can be missed as a symptom of depression, as you're often stereotyped as moody and irritable already. It's also a very common symptom of depression. Often you'll have a very short temper and snap at people you love for no apparent reason. If you notice a change in your mood, it might be best to discuss it with someone, a parent, a school counselor, doctor, or a friend. Even if you think you're just having a rough time at school, it might not be depression, but talking it out helps to get the whole picture. 3. Showing feelings of helplessness. If you're suffering with depression, you'll feel out of depth, like you aren't in control of your life. You can feel completely helpless and confused. While these feelings are normal as you go through changes in your body and growing up, be aware if this symptom persists for longer than a few weeks. Feelings of unhappiness, worry, guilt, being fearful, helpless, hopeless, or lonely could all be signifying that something more serious is wrong. 4. Increasing social isolation. Do you want to just be left alone? When you're not feeling like yourself and your mood is low, it can lead to social isolation. It can be hard being around people because you feel like you have to act like you normally would. This emotional strain can cause you to give up socializing altogether. If you notice you're starting to withdraw from people, talk to someone. Even if you feel you're just having difficulties with friends, it may not always be a sign of depression, but dealing with it now can help stop it turning into something more. 5. Little to no enjoyment of things you once liked. Have you lost interest in being involved in after-school clubs, music practice, or sports? Do you feel like you don't want to go and are contemplating dropping out? You might not even watch your favorite TV shows with as much interest. Not enjoying things you once liked could be a sign you're depressed. Have you struggled with depression? What do you do to help? Psych2Go would love to know. Be sure to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so this is in the slide. So if you want to watch it later, you can. Now, I do have one more. Hold on.
Hey, Psych2Goers, welcome back to another video. As a quick disclaimer, we wanted to remind our viewers
Hold on one
that the
second.
depression signs discussed in this video should not be used to diagnose anyone with depression. If you or someone you know is struggling with depression,
My son
please
was
reach out to
successful
us
and had friends, but during his
With that
junior
Hold on
year,
one second.
he started to withdraw from
have you ever had
everything.
days
He
where all
eventually
you wanted to
attempted
do was lie
suicide.
in bed and do
We were
absolutely
shocked.
nothing else?
Why don't
You
you
just wanted to be
us by
lazy
the
and not worry
There's
about shit.
multiple YouTubes open, so if you just exit out one of
The
those,
first
then
two,
it should
yeah.
get rid of it.
Struggled with depression. And in her
It's
freshman
normal to
year,
feel like that.
she lost 25 pounds.
But we live in such a
She got
hyper-competitive
some help,
society,
and later
so
learned she had been
hyper-focused on
thinking of
pursuing
suicide.
success and wealth,
I'm
that it's
so
made us
glad
feel
they helped
internally
her.
guilty.
Hold on one
After
For the
suicide
time
on
we
his
spent
team,
not working
my
towards
son was
something productive.
confused,
When
sad,
you
and
overwork
angry,
yourself to
like
exhaustion,
he didn't
and
want
are
to talk
dealing with
about
chronic
it.
stress,
When we did
will
talk
end
about
Good afternoon, everyone. Those who I have not spoken to. Deja,
Hello, hello, hello.
how are you?
I am good. I'm just enjoying some breakfast for lunch. Made me some pancakes.
Okay, I need to be at your house. She'll be back shortly.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I really haven't eaten breakfast or lunch. So as soon as this class is over, I'm going to find something to eat. Don't know what.
So that was it almost caused a little stress and anxiety having everything play at one time. Okay.
It's
Back to sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay, how do I do that? Did you give me that option?
You still have it. You're the co-host. You should be able to go to the green button, share screen.
Okay, I found it. Let's try this again. We're just gonna skip on down to this next slide. Let's see. Okay, sorry about that. Now, I want to talk about some of the types of depression that people can have. The various types are major depressive disorder, and the DSM is like our little book that we go by. If you are familiar with like the Bible, it's like the Bible of mental health. All of the diagnoses are in there, and they come out with new ones like whenever they update it. But we go to that book to look for further information if we need to on anything from anxiety to eating disorders to depression to just any mental health diagnosis. So major depressive disorder, you have to have 5 of the symptoms, and I'll talk about the different symptoms that are characterized with depression. Perinatal, it can occur before or after childbirth. So if a woman's pregnant. Premenstrual, dysphoric disorder. It's when you're, for girls, okay? When you notice that you're tired and you're down and you have anxiety and you have irritability, some of that stuff is normal. But when it's like very chronic, meaning it happens a lot, and it takes over and it interferes with like going to school and different things like that. Seasonal or persistent depressive disorder, that is depression for most of the day. So it's not like, it doesn't last for like days or weeks, but it's just like most of the day. Seasonal affective disorder, let's say someone passed away, maybe your grandma passed away in April. So every year around April, you get upset and you start to become depressed where you don't want to really be around a lot of people, okay? So you're not necessarily matching it with grandma's death, but it's like every year in April I get sad, or every year at Halloween I get sad because maybe something major happened around that time of the year. Atypical is just something that doesn't line up with all of the different things that happen with depression. Okay. So I'm gonna see if I skip a slide. Let me go back. Give me 1 second. Okay. I did skip a slide. There we go. Depression in young children. It's important to know that even young children, 10 and under, can be depressed. We think of it, oh, they're a little sad, or what do they have to be depressed about? You know, they're too young to have serious problems. A lot of times that's what people say. But the problems that young people experience is just as real in their mind as an adult going through hard times, you know. I want everybody to get a piece of paper. I'm supposed to run over this one first. Get a piece of paper and something to write with, okay, so that you can take notes. I want you to write down the things that you don't understand, and I want you to write down questions that you may have. Now, with this video, it's a lot of information, okay, that's given out. So we'll watch it, and then I'll go back through, and we can stop it and talk about certain points that you may not understand, okay? Let's do this. I'm gonna be tech savvy one day. That's one of my dreams.
You have a lot of young people that can help you with that.
I know. Thank God Deja showed up. She's very helpful. Okay.
We used to think that children could not get depressed. We used to think that they were emotionally immature or
You
cognitively
need to see the
immature.
video.
And even very young children can get depressed.
Deja, I think you need to teach me and Syreeta a class on how to manipulate that.
Part of
We can do
learning how to
that.
regulate emotion. But some children will develop a
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
sense of sadness which persists. And it is those children that we need to be worried about. Depression is associated with serious complications, poor school performance, impaired social relationships, a recurrence of depressive episodes or depressive disorder as they grow up, and in the worst case scenario, the end result may be suicide. So the main symptoms of depression are feeling sad for prolonged periods and with worsening of these feelings, and feeling as if fun has gone out of life.
Parents and teachers are often the first to identify the symptoms of depression in young people. Some cases might be obvious, others less so. If children are visibly unhappy or uncharacteristically irritable for at least 2 to 4 weeks, with these feelings lingering or worsening, they may be depressed. A child suffering from depression may have difficulty concentrating in the classroom, appearing persistently irritable, worried, tearful, moody, or bored. Problems with sleeping, overeating, and undereating are also common. Any risk-taking behaviors, suicidal thoughts, or evidence of self-harm must be addressed without delay. Many of these symptoms can be found in people suffering from depression at any age, but there are additional symptoms that can be visible, more specifically in young people. Young children who complain persistently of aches and pains or other non-specific physical discomfort may be depressed. Teachers and parents might notice changes in peer relationships or social withdrawal. Children may not want to play and visibly lack enjoyment in activities. They may not want to spend time with family and friends and isolate themselves, but equally they may be clingy and unwilling to separate from them. Depression can cause children to lose interest in their general appearance. Over time, there is a drop in academic performance.
Simply moody or unpredictable children should not be diagnosed as being depressed. A child who doesn't want to go to school on a Monday morning is not depressed. In order to fulfill the diagnosis for depression, a child must display a range of symptoms, and those symptoms have to be sufficiently impairing to alter their day-to-day functioning.
Teachers and parents should also be aware of the factors which can put children at risk of depression. Among them are bullying and problems with peers, or lack of self-confidence and inability to keep up at school. At home, if there is discord within the family, or if other members of the family are depressed, children can be at risk. Exposure to drug and alcohol use, or adversity including child abuse, will inevitably put a child's mental health at serious risk. Other life events such as moving away from home, experiencing bereavement, or suffering other illnesses may bring a degree of instability and render a child more vulnerable to developing depression. The more risk factors present in home and school life, the more likely it is that a child could become depressed.
Another form of depression is dysthymia. Dysthymia denotes milder feelings of depression which last for a longer period of time. Children who are dysthymic are often perceived by their peers as being moaners, and the teachers see them as complaining excessively. The danger with dysthymia is that this chronic state can often exacerbate into depression proper. The immediate advice a teacher can give or a parent implement is to ensure that the child has a regular routine, including a sleep routine, a balanced diet, and that they exercise sufficiently. The teacher may need just to watch the child and see what happens over a course of time. Very often, the symptoms are understandable within a context, and there are good reasons why a child may be feeling sad. Parents and teachers must use their judgment. If the symptoms persist, if they worsen, then they should be referred either to the GP or to the SENCO or school nurse.
Children do recover, but depression can recur and can become chronic, so continued vigilance is required. Some children are much more vulnerable to stresses and untoward life events than others, particularly in the presence of biological and environmental risk factors. It is difficult to diagnose depression in young children as they may not be able to describe their feelings. Teachers should not be afraid of asking questions, the same questions one would ask an adult. Are you unhappy? What is making you unhappy? Do you cry? Do you feel bad about yourself in any way?
Okay, I'm going to open up some questions. If anybody took a note of something that they don't understand, or if they have any questions about the video, or if they want to share something that they've noticed in themselves or noticed in a friend that they may have had.
You can ask questions. I got one. When I get depressed, what healthy ways can I gain happiness and confidence?
Okay, so that is what we call coping skills. Okay, so for coping skills, now when you're depressed, you may feel, okay, let's start with the sadness before you actually become like really down and depressed. If you notice that you're not as happy as you usually are, talk to someone about it. That's the first thing. But sometimes you don't want to talk to anybody. So you should try doing something that usually makes you happy, like watching something that's funny on television or something that reminds you of a happier time. I'll watch old TV shows like I Love Lucy, because that reminds me of my grandma, or another show that I used to watch with, my cousins on television, or I'll go outside, getting a little sunlight. Sometimes just changing from your room, even though your room can be comfortable for most people who are depressed. If you go outside, sit on the porch, get a little fresh air, contact a friend, let's go to the mall, play. If you're an adult, you can play cards, play Uno. That's one of my favorite things to do is play Uno. You can also maybe like go to a park. If you can ask your mom or someone to take you to a park, find some type of hobbies. A lot of people don't have hobbies. I grew up in Atlanta, and I used to like to watch television, but when I moved further out, I realized that I like, planting flowers and going to parks and hiking, swimming, do some type of sport. All those things are things like drawing, journaling, writing it down, listening to your favorite song, things that make you happy. You can also reach out to or write a letter to someone. Sometimes when I'm feeling stressed or down, I'll write something uplifting, like a little letter to somebody or a card in the mail. Those are things that can improve your mood. I'll start praying for people. If you have faith or a belief system, I start praying for people that I saw in the store, or people that I know, or people I haven't seen in a long time. That usually improves my mood. Or maybe like do an adult coloring book. Any other questions?
Yes. I was going to say that whenever I experience changes, like a lot of changes going on in my life, even if they're good changes or bad changes, just having or experiencing so many changes, it causes me to experience some of those symptoms that you mentioned about depression. Like I just want to be alone, or I just don't want to be around anybody, or I don't necessarily want to do the things I enjoy because I'm overwhelmed. So what would you say in those moments? How could I cope? Would it be with what you just mentioned in response to LT? Would it be those things?
Sometimes we do go through these periods where we're overwhelmed, and we just like if we have a full battery charge, like we're ready to go. Let's say we get up and we go to school and it's just a regular day. We're a little tired and we come home. But usually when there's like more than one thing going on at a time, let's say I have a test in a subject that I really don't like. My friends are acting up. I don't know. We're in an argument, or my boyfriend I think that he's cheating on me, or and then my parents are arguing, and next thing you know, we're going to move. So let's say you have all that stuff going on at one time, okay? And it could be very stressful. The first thing I would recommend is notice your body, how you feel in the moment. We have to stop, because a lot of times we can't just stop and think about, am I sad? Let me assign an emotion to this thing. What is it? Am I stressed? Am I sad? Am I fearful? Am I just frustrated? If you can label it or figure out what it is, sometimes you can tackle it a little bit better. So let's say sometimes when I get anxious, let's say I'm on the way somewhere and I'm running late. Okay. Me and my husband, let's say we're in the car and we're running late, but we have to stop to get gas. It's easy for my heart to start beating like, we got to hurry up, and you can't, like if he's going to get gas, he's going in to pay for it or whatever, and I'm sitting up there like in my head, I'm going, or if I'm feeling really down, I'll pull up something on my phone. Like I'm not usually on my phone a lot, but I have certain things that I do that matches certain emotions. If I'm trying to be patient, I'll pull up a solitaire game. Or maybe I'll look at social media for a little while for that moment to distract myself. I can go outside and I don't know, sweep my porch or whatever. So these are things that we do, and we assign it. Let's say whenever I'm depressed, I'll go and get my favorite ice cream. Now, I'm not going to sit and eat all the ice cream out of the carton, but me eating the ice cream that I really like may improve my mood at that moment. I like to do yoga sometimes. It's a way to be mindful because when they talk to you, they're talking to you about recognizing how you breathe, you're stretching, maybe I go do some exercises. Sometimes when people get angry, and anger is sometimes characterized by people not communicating when they're sad. You can exercise. That's a good way of relieving some stress or some sad feelings, because your brain will release a chemical that will make you feel good. So exercising can also do that. But sometimes the information or the coping skills I give out are coping skills that are generally useful for me, but I encourage everyone to go through and figure out what works for you. Taking a hot bath, or doing a facial, or FaceTiming a friend if I'm home and I can't leave the house to go because my parents are not there. Maybe I can do a FaceTime. What are you doing? Hey, what's going on? And just hearing about something silly and funny. That can make me feel better. But everybody needs to figure out their coping skills that's specific for them, because I'm not an artist. If I was, I would be drawing something. Or if I were a musician, I would just grab my instrument and start playing my music as a way to express how I feel. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Let me figure out how to exit out of this and go back to my slide. I'm getting a little bit better, I think. Okay, I said it too soon. All right, here we go. Back to sharing my screen, and all right. So about the video with the small children, I know that there are some people out there who may be watching this on YouTube and they work with children. And of course, in most schools, they have school counselors that the children can be sent to. If you've noticed some of these symptoms in children, it's hard sometimes, like if you're a teacher and you have a classroom full of children and everybody needs your attention at one time. But if you notice a kid who maybe started the school year one way, they're just a happy-go-lucky kid, and all of a sudden they're angry or they're irritable and they can't get along with the other children anymore, or if you go to the playground with them and they just sit off to the side and don't play with anyone. Sometimes kids can have disagreements and they separate, that's okay, that's fine. I do believe that children should try to work things out for themselves, but they may be having these issues at school because there's something going on at home. And it's worth you referring them to the school counselor or asking them, what's going on? It seems like you're acting differently than you used to. Are you sad? How does your belly feel? Because sometimes kids just say, I don't feel good. And they can't really point out what is it that's wrong with them. So keep that in mind. They don't have the vocabulary to tell you what they're going through. But if you notice them playing, I used to notice kids in like the kitchen area, if they're in like pre-K or kindergarten and they're acting out something and they're yelling at their little doll, or if they're just like laying in bed and acting like, well, I don't want to go. And, they'll say things when they're playing that they won't say to you in a conversation. So be mindful of that.
You have a question. The question is, what foods help with depression?
Okay, here we go. So let me back up from food for a minute. If you notice that, and this may seem gross to some kids, that if you are not going to the bathroom regularly, let's start there, okay? Because some kids like chicken fingers, or they like noodles and they like cereal, okay? Everybody's body is different. So if they're not eating a healthy diet with vegetables, or they haven't been exposed to foods that are healthy, they may have belly issues where they can't go to the bathroom regularly. Some kids don't drink water. They don't like water. So those things right there alone, not going to the bathroom regularly and not drinking enough water, can mess with your mood. It can make you irritable and cranky and make you feel bad. So you want to lay down and you don't want to be around people. And you can't really talk about what you're feeling. You just don't feel good. Okay. But backing up, a healthy diet of eating good will help you. Because if you eat a lot of junk all the time, it's going to make you feel bad. Because sugar will make you, sometimes in general, sugar will hype you up. Okay. But guess what? What goes up must come down, and it can affect your mood. Let's say if I eat a lot of candy and I have all this energy and I'm moving around, after a while, I may feel tired and sluggish and like I just don't want to do anything and I just want to lay down. Okay, so that can affect your mood. But if you're eating better, generally you feel better. So fruits and vegetables. If you want, pull up the chart, like Google a healthy eating chart, and they'll tell you things that you can eat. But diet does affect your mood because there are things that can make you feel down and sad. So be mindful of trying new things. It's scary sometimes. Things look like they may not taste good. I used to do this group with the children about just overall health, mental health and physical health, because it's so connected. Sometimes people can have anxiety and stress, and it will make your body ache in certain ways. The video also said something about people or children who are depressed may have aches and pains in their bodies. So be mindful of the things that you eat because it will make you feel good, like taking vitamins every day. It can help with focus and concentration and make you just feel better because you're eating better. When we talk about diet and eating things to make you feel better, exercise is the same way. If I'm sitting at home and I don't move around, and especially when COVID was going on and we couldn't really get out and we didn't know what to expect, we're just in the house and we're laying around. When people are down and they're not moving, sometimes they can sink even further down. So, like I said, get sunshine, walk around. Let's say you don't have a bike, get a jump rope. And you can just jump, getting fresh air and moving around, working up a sweat or raising your heart rate, your heart start beating real fast. That can help improve your mood. Any other questions?
Nothing else in the chat box.
Okay.
Anybody has a question? Okay. Okay. So I want to spend a little bit of time because people like to throw around terms that they really don't understand, like bipolar. Okay. It's a little aggravating, I think, to mental health professionals when people say, oh, they're just a narcissist or they're bipolar, meaning that they have these ups and downs and they change all of a sudden. They think that these people are bipolar because they understand bipolar to mean that, oh, they're happy one minute and they're sad or angry another minute. But I want to just spend a little time talking about it, just a little bit. So bipolar disorder is serious. It's really nothing to play with. It's described with manic episodes. I'll describe manic in a little bit. Symptoms such as high energy levels. These people are over the moon, excited and happy in a situation where you're like, okay, like if somebody talk about, guess what? We're going to the movies Friday night. And you go, oh, okay, I like going to the movies. That's normal. But if you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to the movies. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get popcorn. I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that. And oh my gosh, it's so great. And oh, I wonder what movie we're gonna see. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the difference because it's just a little bit too much. It's like way over the top, okay? So that's an example of something that is like very high energy. These people, when they have this high energy, they don't even get sleepy. They can stay up for days. They lose touch with reality, okay?
They'll make up scenarios like, I'm going to go to the movies, I'm going to see a famous person, they're going to want to meet my boyfriend, and then I'm going to live in Hollywood, and then I'm going to shop at all these stores. It's like, yeah, chances are if you go to the movie theater, you probably won't meet a movie star who's going to want to be your boyfriend. I'm just saying, that's not a realistic situation. It's also followed by depressive episodes that may include very low energy, low motivation, meaning that I'm not motivated to do my homework, or I'm not even motivated to talk to my friends. You have a loss of interest in daily activities. These people, they don't want to brush their teeth. They don't want to put on clean clothes. They may not even want to change clothes. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to be involved in any extracurricular activities. The mood episodes last days to months at a time, and also may be associated with suicidal thoughts. Now, when I talk about days and months, some people want to call people bipolar if they're happy and then 5 minutes later they're sad. That's inappropriate. Okay. These things in someone who are bipolar last for a long period of time, a very long period of time. I'm going to play a little video about it so that you can get a better understanding. And I want you to have a better understanding about it because people will talk about the term bipolar a lot. So I want you to see a little bit of what this is about. And I'll answer your questions at the end if you have some. Can you see the video?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let's try this again. Can you see the video now?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Right.
Yes.
Hey Psych2Goers, welcome back to another video. We're so grateful for all of the support you've given us. Our mission is to make psychology more accessible and digestible for everyone. Before we begin, we would like to make a short disclaimer. If you relate to anything listed in this video, please reach out to your doctor to discuss your symptoms, as this video is not intended to diagnose yourself or others. With that said, let's continue. There are many types of mental illness: depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, and many more. You may have heard of bipolar disorder before. It is a mental illness that affects your moods. A common misconception about bipolar disorder is that a person has frequent mood swings going from happy or positive to sad, angry, irritated, or other negative emotions almost without warning. But did you know that there are different types? Today, we are going to learn about the similarities and differences between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 disorder. Bipolar 1. The first type of bipolar disorder we're going to talk about is bipolar 1 disorder. People with BP1 go through cycles of mania, depression, and normal moods. However, not everyone with BP1 experiences depressive episodes. Sometimes they just experience shifts between normal and manic moods. It can often feel like riding a roller coaster. You're going up the first hill with all of these exciting, adrenaline-inducing emotions building up. When you get to the top, you feel like you're on top of the world. What exactly is mania, though? According to the DSM-5, mania is defined as a distinct period of abnormally and persistently elevated, expansive, or irritable moods, and abnormally and persistently goal-directed behavior or energy. This is just a general definition. Not everyone with BP1 experiences mania the same way. If you have BP1 disorder and are in a manic episode, you may have lots of energy, feel wired, have racing thoughts, talk faster than usual, take part in risky behaviors, need less sleep, or have heightened, intense senses such as smell or touch. A person without BP1 may experience these symptoms for various reasons. Maybe you had too much caffeine or sugar, or maybe you're just in a good, energetic mood. The key differences are that manic episodes are usually very extreme, out of the ordinary for the person experiencing them, and the episodes last at least 7 days. Occasionally, some people with BP1 may experience psychosis while in a manic episode. Psychosis is easily understood as a loss of contact with reality. A person experiencing psychosis may have delusions, hallucinations, such as hearing voices or seeing things that aren't really there, or talking incoherently and saying things that don't seem to make sense to other people. If you're in a psychotic episode, you're probably not aware that you are, or that anything is even wrong at all. Psychosis is a serious condition and usually requires emergency care. Depression is another extreme mood that a person with BP1 may experience and often immediately follows a manic episode. Just like the roller coaster example we used for mania, what goes up must come down. A person with BP1 will quickly go from feeling like they're on top of the world to speeding down the hill into a far more negative mood. Just like with mania, not every person experiences depressive episodes the same way. If you're depressed, you may have mental and behavioral symptoms, such as having little or no interest in doing the things you normally enjoy doing. Hopelessness, intense sadness, irritability, or lack of concentration. Depressive episodes can also affect you physically. It may make it harder for you to fall or stay asleep, make you feel fatigued, or make you lose your appetite. Bipolar 2. Another type of bipolar disorder is bipolar 2 disorder. BP2 is similar to BP1. However, symptoms tend to be milder than those that present in people with BP1. People with BP2 experience bouts of depression and normal moods, just like those with BP1. Rather than mania, though, people with BP2 have hypomania. What exactly is hypomania? Hypomania is often very similar to mania. If you experience hypomania, you'll more than likely have the same symptoms of mania, just in a milder form. This can include an increase in energy, racing thoughts, increased motivation to take on new projects, and others that we've previously talked about with manic symptoms. Hypomanic episodes don't usually cause extreme issues in your life, as manic episodes do, though. That's not to say that they can't be troublesome or disruptive. While people with BP1 usually experience more problems with manic episodes, people with BP2 tend to have more issues with the depressive episodes than the hypomanic episode. Of course, everyone is different, and these are just trends. Bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 disorder have their similarities as well as their differences. While BP1 tends to deal with manic episodes and BP2 deals more with extreme depressive episodes, neither one is better or worse than the other. They simply affect you in a different way. Did you find this video to be educational? Would you like to see more mental health and mental?
Okay, so that's just a little general information about bipolar disorder. If you were curious, because people talk about it a lot, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about it. Okay, how to know if you are depressed, since we're talking about depression. There is a quiz that you can take to let you know. The information that you get from this quiz can be useful if you figure out or get a score to say that you're depressed. You should reach out and you should talk to your parents, or you should talk to a mental health professional that's in your area, because I'm not sure with all the people who are listening to this video what area you live in, but if you get on Google and you Google mental health professionals or therapists in my area, then you should get information on that, okay? But this is just a way, just in case you're questioning yourself, to figure it out, okay? Now, recognizing signs of suicide, okay? The reason why I put this quote is because sometimes suicidal behavior may not seem like they're sad or depressed. It's not always the tears that measure the pain. Sometimes it's the smile we fake. So for people who are truly suicidal, they may not seem like the typical depressed person. They may seem happy. They may seem very generous. I had a patient, this is an older guy. He had a son who was in college. He felt like this kid had very good potential. He was doing extracurricular activities. He had a dog living with him at the apartments on his campus. And this older gentleman got a phone call that his son had passed away, that he had took his own life. This man lives every day questioning himself of what could I have done differently? You know, as a parent, did I fail in some way? This is what happened when they're left behind. If you're left behind from someone who may have committed suicide, we all question ourselves about what we could have done. Okay. What to look for. Okay. I saw this picture on the internet and I thought it was very good. Without help, my mind would have been stuck in the same place forever. And the hopeless thoughts would have taken over me. Okay. Now, this is a step beyond depression. All right. Being down, feeling sad, losing interest in things. This is where someone can say, one kid told me once, I asked them about their assignments. I said, you're getting behind in your assignments. What's the plan? What are we going to do to make them up? And this little girl told me, I'm not even worried about it because I'm not going to live to see my graduation. She couldn't see a future. She had no hope. She didn't have dream. If you ask someone who is thinking about suicide, like, where are you going to live? Or what's your plans in the next 5 years? What college are you going to go to? They often can't answer that because they can't see past their parents getting divorced or them being like photographs put on social media of them or them being very embarrassed or them not going to school or them not knowing how to do certain concepts in school. They feel stupid, they feel dumb, like I'm not smart, like I'm not going to be able to get a job or I won't be able to have a family. They can't see past today. That's usually what suicide looks like, somebody who's suicidal. But they can be the teacher. I have a kid who's coming to me because his teacher committed suicide. This person comes to school helping kids every day, but you just never know what someone is going through. If you notice something different in someone or a change in their mood, eating habits, or behaviors, the people who are suicidal, really suicidal, they want you to ask them questions. They want you to ask them, you're different today. What's going on? Do you feel like you're hopeless? Do you feel like you're scared of living? Do you have thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself? Usually people will answer these questions very honestly. We had training where I used to work at Willowbrook, and there was a guy who was doing the training. He was suicidal, and he walked around the whole day and said, if someone asks me, I'll tell them, and I won't kill myself. He saw people on his journey to go to this bridge, to jump off of a bridge, and people did not ask him. He even looked a certain way. I mean, he looked at him. He didn't say anything, but he wanted people to ask him a question. He went to the bridge, he jumped off the bridge, and someone saved him. And he can go around and tell his story about how depressed and sad he was and how nobody asked him a question. And he actually tried to do something, but he lived. And he decided that he would go around and talk to people about how it feels and what to look for. But I know this presentation seems like it has a lot of videos attached to it, because if you don't suffer from depression, it's hard for you to understand what that looks like, because it's not just sadness. It is a hole on the inside of your body that you feel like can never be filled. Even if you tried to eat that ice cream I talked about earlier, or even if you sit, let's say you leave out of your room, because I tell people, if you're depressed, do something opposite of what depression would want you to do. Depression wants you to stay in your bed and not go anywhere. Depression wants you to not have a life. Depression wants you to feel like nobody loves you. Depression wants you to be by yourself all the time and not care about yourself. Now, you may even care about somebody else more than you even care about your own self. That's what depression does. So I encourage people to go sit in the living room where your family's walking by you in and out of the house or whatever, or sit next to your grandma or your mother and watch a movie. You know, I want people to do that because depression will tell you not to. Okay, but some people don't know what to look for when we're talking about suicidal behaviors. And this video is going to talk a little bit about that, how to notice it. So if you're a parent, if you're a school administrator, if you work at the library, if you're a nurse, anything. If you're just a teenage kid and you have a friend who could be suffering, this is what you look for. Let's see if you can see the video. Can you see the video?
No.
Okay, hold on. One second.
My son was successful and had friends, but during his junior year, he started to withdraw from everything. He eventually attempted suicide. We were shocked.
Our daughter came to us very
Can you see the video?
Yes.
upset and anxious. She said she had no future and she wanted to die. We were able to talk it through that day, and she was okay.
My niece struggled with depression, and in her freshman year, she lost 25 pounds in a month. She got some help, and we later learned she had been thinking of suicide. I'm so glad they helped her.
After a suicide on his team, my son was confused, sad, and angry, but he didn't want to talk about it. When we did talk about it, he admitted that the whole team was struggling. I'm happy we were able to be there.
These are the voices of people who have been impacted by suicidal thoughts or behaviors in a young person in their lives. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people between 10 and 24. It is one of the most challenging and frightening topics to talk about for a family. It's also more important to talk about than anything else. Keep a few important things in mind. Suicidal thoughts are common. If a young person experiences suicidal thoughts, he or she can feel scared and too ashamed to talk about them. While thoughts are always a concern and can be warning signs, suicidal behavior is far more dangerous. When young people find out that suicidal thoughts are common, they often feel relieved to know that they aren't alone and they aren't going crazy. Suicidal thoughts are usually temporary. Most people with thoughts of suicide only experience them for a short time before they pass. Even if they return, young people can learn to cope with temporary distress and manage their thoughts and discomfort. When youth can cope with and manage bad news, bad moods, difficult social interactions, or simply the awkward task of growing up, they tend to think of suicide far less frequently. It's okay to talk about suicide. Asking a young person, "Are you thinking of killing yourself?" with a calm, confident tone sends a very important message. It conveys that it's okay to talk about anything. It can provide hope and relief to a young person who is feeling hopeless. Treatment works. Youth can experience relief and a reduced risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Sometimes the thoughts and behaviors are temporary, and creating a safety or crisis response plan has been shown to be effective during a hard time. If the thoughts continue or get worse, evidence-based treatments to prevent suicide are reliable ways to address the most dangerous conditions. Resources are available. From immediate crisis services to long-term treatment, youth and families can find many different helpful resources. Counselors and medical providers are able to help treat those who struggle with thoughts of suicide. Community and school prevention programs offer education and support to families. Emergency rooms, 911 operators, and first responders are well trained in crisis management. And there are many 24-hour crisis lines available to help young people experiencing suicidal thoughts or families in need of help. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available by phone, text, chat, Facebook, and Twitter, among others. Youth who struggle with suicidal thoughts or behavior can feel scared, sad, and ashamed. Families will be concerned and want to help. Starting the conversation is the most important first step. Families should know that they have the power to change things for the young people they love. Sometimes that all-important question and the help that can come from it can save a young life.
Okay. So I go a little bit more in detail on my slides about this because I want everybody to recognize some of the symptoms that they should look for, or some of the things that can trigger suicide. So, signs that a child may be suicidal, okay? And this is for younger children. I go over another slide to talk about teens and adults. So in younger children, so just think about your little cousins or nieces, nephews, or people in your family or people in the community. See if you notice some of these things. Isolation from friends and family. Problems eating or sleeping. Sometimes people use food as a way to, I don't know, to make themselves feel better. And if it comes excessive, let's say you like Doritos, okay? You get a handful of Doritos and you eat them, okay. But some people will sit and eat the whole bag of Doritos. I like Doritos too, okay? But if you're really going through something and you can't set boundaries with certain things, like eating all of the popsicles, not just one or two. And of course you really like popsicles and you want to eat them, but overeating, it can be a sign. Or not eating enough. Some people, when they feel a certain way, they don't have an appetite for food. I've had patients tell me that they don't feel like chewing. Nothing tastes good. And at that point, I encourage people to drink like a protein shake because they've lost the will to want to eat. They have mood swings. We talk about being irritable, angry for no reason. Let's say somebody brushed past you by accident, or they step on your foot by accident, okay? And the child just completely loses it, snaps, storms off, screams, yells. It's like over the top. Reckless behavior. Let's say they're trying things that they shouldn't try, like jumping off of rails or something silly that could be dangerous or very hurtful to them. Dropping grades. They used to be a straight A student, or they used to have A's and B's, and now their grades are dropping, which is very uncharacteristic of your child or your cousin or whoever. And they don't care about their grades anymore. Increased use of drugs or alcohol. And I know young children, if you think about young children, you don't really think about drugs and alcohol, but they have older siblings, or they have people in the community who are doing things, and they may try it because they're going to take risk, or they drink alcohol that may be in their home that their parents are drinking. There's a lot of parents who don't know that their kids are getting into alcohol and drugs just simply because they have it in the house. Giving away belongings. They feel like, I'm not going to be here, so I'm going to give these things away. It could be their favorite teddy bear, their favorite doll, or things that they hold dear to themselves, or some clothing or something. It may seem like, oh, they're just being nice, but if you watch it, it will turn into a trend that they're like, it's called preparatory behaviors. They're prepping not to be here anymore. Talking about feeling hopeless or trapped, or like difficulty breathing. Like I said, they can't see past the next day or even the next hour. Talking about being a burden to others or not belonging. Nobody loves me. Always getting in trouble at school. I'm causing problems for my family. We had to move because I couldn't go to this school anymore, or, those type of things. Talking about suicide or wanting to die. Sometimes people throw that around for attention, true enough. But when you add it into a combination of these things, if somebody just, they're in trouble at school, or they're afraid their parents are going to spank them because they got in trouble, they'll just say, I don't want to live, I want to die. And I've had kids come to me because the school will call and say, hey, you need to take them to get a mental health evaluation before they can come back to school. And after meeting and talking to the kids, I realized, okay, they're doing that because they want them to know how upset they are, not because they seriously have thought about taking their life. But if this person's saying they want to die, their grades have dropped, they're angry all the time, and they don't want to be around anybody, this is a combination of things, then okay, if they talk about suicide, then try to believe this person and try to get them help. Writing or drawing about suicide or acting it out in play, like kids will talk about. Excuse me, I have dogs barking. Kids will act it out, or they'll talk about things. They'll draw pictures. So some parents, they'll come to me and say, hey, they're drawing these pictures and I'm concerned. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Doggy's getting a little out of control. But okay. So drawing pictures about violence and blood and those type of things, that's something to be concerned about. Or writing letters about not living anymore. Those are the things that you should, if you have a friend who's doing that type of thing, tell someone, tell the school counselor, because it's very concerning. All right, how to know if my teen, now these are teenagers, are suicidal, okay? Let's go through some of these. Depression or other mental health disorders or substance abuse could often be combined, like they could do drugs and have mental health diagnoses. It's more prevalent for people who have, they call it dual diagnosis, to want to hurt themselves, okay? Because it's too hard to cope with the alcohol use or the drug use and the mental health disorders, okay? Feeling hopeless and worthless, previous suicide attempts. So if someone has, okay, so when you talk about a suicide attempt, let me explain this. If you think that eating 10 vitamin C tablets, okay? Vitamin C is something that we can take, okay? Or vitamin D, it's like chewable stuff, right? I know that taking 10 vitamin C pills, chewables or whatever, will not end your life. But if you believe that eating 10 vitamin C tablets will kill you and you do it, that's a suicide attempt. So it's not someone who's like jumping off of a building or jumping into a lake or, you know, that kind of thing. It's the intent behind it. If you're trying to kill yourself, I don't care if it's I'm putting a rope on the doorknob and I'm slamming it. Okay, that may not stop your life. But if you truly believe that that will, that's a suicide attempt. So if someone has had a suicide attempt in the past, they're more likely to commit another suicide attempt. Physical illness. So I have people who have chronic illnesses, people who have things that like cancer, or a child who may be different, someone in a wheelchair, or have a lot of health concerns where they have to go in and out of the hospital. Some kids can have cancer. If they're different and they have a lot of health concerns and they're different from everybody else, that will sometimes give them the thought that they don't want to live anymore. Feeling detached and isolated from friends, peers, and family. When coronavirus first came out, and like this could be someone who's full of sunshine and always around people and the life of the party. If they're in a situation where they can't be around people, if you're extrovert and you like being around people and you're all of a sudden confined in a situation, like at the bottom, they have incarceration, okay? If a child has to go to juvenile, or if someone is isolated from everybody they love, their friends and family, or they're not able to go to school, because some people really love school, they can sometimes think about ending their life. It can be that serious. And some people can think, that's silly, it's just for a small amount of time, or they'll eventually get out or whatever, but they could think that their life is over and they don't want to go on living. If there's a situation where family history of suicide, so let's say their uncle or cousin committed suicide, they feel sad, they feel depressed, and they want to be with that relative. It could be that simple in their mind. Like, my grandmother's passed away. My parents told me she's in heaven. I want to go to heaven to be with my grandma. They could think that they don't want to go on living because things are just too hard. If there is a mental illness in the family, it can just be in your DNA. And everything can be going on that's happy and fun in your life, and all of a sudden, you're not feeling like you want to live. It could happen. Family violence, including physical or sexual abuse. So, being in a situation where your family's always arguing and people are hitting each other and the police is called over and over again, or let's say that you know that your dad is beating your mom, or your mom's beating your dad, or your uncles or your grandparents or whatever, or if someone is beating you, like, okay, some people get spankings, you know, they get spanked or whatever, and then they go to their room and it's over. But there are some kids whose parents or caregivers are very sad or very angry, and they take it out on children. So they could hit them for no reason, or be a little excessive when it comes to punishments. So they spank them or they hit them to where they leave bruises, or the child bleeds, or they miss school because they have all these bruises and illnesses. That can cause them to feel trapped in that situation, and they may want to end their lives. Some kids are being touched inappropriately by family members, by neighbors, by friends of the families, by siblings. And they feel like they can't say anything or the person will kill them, so they may want to kill themselves. All of these things sound very extreme to someone who's not going through it, but believe me, it happens a lot. And if you know of someone or has friends that are going through, or cousins or anybody who is going through these type of things, pay attention, talk to them. And if you know about it and they haven't told anybody else, talk to the school counselor, because maybe they can get them help. Let's see, access to weapons in the home. Some people's parents or caregivers have weapons in their homes, and a combination of feeling sad, failing grades, cousin committed suicide, and all these different things, and you have a weapon in your home, they could often plan to end their life. So as a parent or a caregiver, make sure if you have weapons to keep them secure, locked away, or you may choose not to have any weapons at all. But let's keep this in mind. There are a lot of things that can be considered a weapon, okay, or different things that kids can use to commit suicide, not just a handgun, not just knives, okay? Some people do self-harm. They take it's so serious. You know how we wear masks, and the masks have these little nose guards on them? They will take the nose guards out of these things to hurt themselves. And I'm bringing this up in this video because there are some grandparents raising grandchildren and they don't know. There are some parents who are busy. I get it, and they work a lot because they have to make ends meet. They have to provide for their families. So keep in mind some of these things that I'm saying, and check your kids' rooms for weapons or things that can be used as weapons, or things that can be used for them to harm themselves. Knowing someone with suicidal behavior, such as family members, friends, or celebrities. So there have been celebrities who have died, or kids who have committed suicide, or things like that. It can become a fascination. Some kids, they will get obsessive about things. If you have a child that is, because this is the information age, okay? Everybody's plugged in and they're exposed to a lot of things. And sometimes kids can go overboard with research, and they look at these people who've committed suicide and they say, they had this problem, but I feel like my problem is worse than that. Maybe I should commit suicide too. It's a fascination, and they don't understand that that's not a temporary fix. That's a long-term solution, that your life will be over. And it's not just your life. It is your parents' life, your sister and brother's life, your grandparents' life, your friends at school's life. It's like a domino effect. It can affect everyone around you. Coping with being gay, homosexuality, in a unsupportive family, community, or hostile school environment. So put it out there. There are a lot of people who are questioning their sexuality. There's a lot of people who've been abused and question their sexuality. They're questioning their gender. Somebody may feel like, hey, I am seen as a boy, but I really feel like I'm a girl, or vice versa. And they don't want to bring this stuff out in their community or in their home because they've heard their relatives or their friends say, that's stupid, or I would beat someone up, or I'm not going to have this in my household. So they feel like they're trapped and that they can't be who they want to be. So internally, they're torn up inside and they don't want to live. This may cause someone to want to commit suicide, okay? At the end of the day, I encourage parents, grandparents, or friends, or whatever somebody's struggling with, or whatever they choose to be, that shouldn't be the end all be all. If you love that person, you should still love that person. That's my personal belief. We talked about incarceration too, time in prison. Some people feel like they've let down their families. They've let down their wives, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins. Let's say you're an older brother and you have to go to prison or jail, and you have your younger siblings looking up to you, and you feel like you've let everybody down. So this can be a heavy burden, and you may want to end your life because you feel like you're such a big disappointment. What should I do? Okay. We all probably know somebody who's depressed, or we've known of someone who's committed suicide, and we want to know, what should I do? How can I do something about this? If you're a young child, let's say you're between the ages of 5 and like 12, okay? You need to talk about it. Have a conversation. Say, I don't feel good. Whatever words you feel like you can use to describe how you feel. Because young children don't have a lot of vocabulary to describe their feelings. So just say, I don't feel good, or I feel sad. I feel really sad, like really, like a lot. Okay, maybe that'll get you the attention that you need. Because some people will just jump straight to, I feel suicidal, or I don't want to live, or I want to die. That's what little kids say, I want to die. Okay, because they need that attention to show, this is how serious I am. They'll say that, okay? Talk to your parents or your relatives. Let's say you feel like you can't talk to your mom and dad about it. Talk to an aunt. Talk to a cousin. Talk to someone, okay? Tell a teacher. If you have a teacher you like, tell your teacher. If you don't like your teacher, ask your teacher, can you speak to the school counselor? Because some people feel like my teacher don't like me because I'm always getting in trouble. So the counselor is supposed to be a person that you can go to whenever you need to. Let's say you're in the middle of class and your teacher says, okay, I'll let you go to a school counselor after lunch. Tell your teacher, it's very serious. I really need to see the counselor. And they'll get you to the counselor, and the counselor will get you the help that you need, okay? She'll either talk to you, she'll talk to your parents about it, whatever you need, okay? Now, if you're a teenagers, I have parents coming in all the time talking about their teenagers are just in their rooms all the time and on their cell phones, okay? I just wanna let you know that your teenager being in their rooms and on their cell phone is completely normal. Don't think that just because they're doing that, they're depressed, okay? You're gonna need a few more things going on besides them being in their room, because that's, like, generally speaking, what they all like to do, okay? Now, if you're a teenager and you're feeling like, I'm in my room, I don't wanna be around anybody because I'm feeling sad and I don't wanna live, I need you to reach out to your friends. People will commonly tell their friends, and we've had people, like friends, go to counselors, or friends tell their parents, or friends call 911 for their friend. So talk to your friends about it. Don't just bottle it up and hold it in. Reach out to a mentor, okay? And when I say the word mentor, they don't have to officially say, I am the mentor for Miss LT. You don't have to officially say that. Someone who you should look at as a mentor is someone who's maybe in your church. Let's say you're in a youth group at church, talk to the youth group leader. It could be a helper in your youth group. It could be the pastor. It could be the pastor's son. It could be someone at your school who's a coach. You don't even have to take that sport. Let's say they coach basketball and you're not in any sports at all, but you really look up to this person. That's someone who you admire. That's a mentor, okay? Someone who's told you a story before in your neighborhood. Hey, you're a nice young man. I see how you try to help your parents or whatever. It can be a neighbor who's encouraging you or helping you in some way. You can reach out to that person because that's like a mentor, okay? People who you come in contact with, like somebody who works at your parents' job or something, they've been friendly to you and they've given you bought you a drink or something before, whatever. Someone who's older who you look up to is a mentor, or somebody who's had experiences that you're now struggling with, that you're trying to find help with. Those are mentors, okay? Reach out to them. Reach out to a school counselor. Like I said, they're there for you for these situations. That's what they're in your school system for. People you trust in general, okay? If you feel like you could trust this person, reach out and let them know, I've been thinking about not living, or my life is so bad, I feel hopeless. All right, so if you're a parent, if you're a relative, an aunt, let's say you don't have any kids, but you're an aunt and you have nephews and nieces, okay? Let's say you're a school administrator and you're just walking up and down the hall. You can be a janitor and notice that somebody's mood is different. You need to gauge your own mental health and well-being before you address any concerns. Sometimes people will react kind of like Willow Smith, like the reaction she got when she said that she was depressed. Because as an adult, you're like, oh, you don't have any bills, you know, you shouldn't be sad, you shouldn't be down. You need to check yourself. Do a mental health check yourself to see, am I sad and depressed? Do I need to work on me a little bit, or, you know, calm down if I'm angry, or if I'm sad, maybe I need to elevate my mood before you reach out to these kids. Because if you reach out to a child that you think is struggling with suicide and you're like, you don't have any problems, you just make yourself happy, fake it till you make it, and all this, they're gonna feel like, well, I can't talk to that person. They don't really understand me. And they'll shut down. They will not share anything with you. So check yourself and gauge your own mental health before you try to address any concerns. Talk about what you've noticed in their behavior, because a lot of times when people are suicidal, they feel like nobody cares anyway. When you say, I've noticed that you're wearing the same jacket every day, it could be because they don't have another one, okay? You can point them to resources. Hey, you know what, Sister LT, they give out clothes and stuff all the time with Slick. You know, let her know she can get you a new jacket. Or it may be because they have a whole closet full of clothes, but they don't want to take a bath or shower, brush their teeth, and that jacket, they feel like I'm hiding and nobody can see all the pain that I'm going through. Or say, hey, I noticed you used to hang out with your friends on this hallway or whatever, or you used to go outside and play, and now you're not playing like that anymore. Like, what's going on? What's up? What are you feeling right now? Okay. Tell them the things that you've noticed, because they want to know that somebody cares. Also, ask them if they feel like they're hopeless. Ask them if they're thinking about ending their lives. Make a plan, okay? A plan. I go over a crisis safety plan on the next slide. It's just a plan about, if I'm feeling suicidal, what should I do? If you're an administrator or an adult and you know of a child, you can help them make this plan. If they are in immediate danger, let's say you walk in on your kid or your niece or your friend or whoever, and they're doing something to end their lives, the first thing you're supposed to do is call 911 or take them to the ER. If you don't feel like they'll go with you, call 911 and they'll send out the professionals to help at that time. Sometimes people brush stuff off and go, don't do that, that's stupid. Come out of here, stay in the room with me. I'm gonna watch you, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then things kind of, you know, they brush things over and they go to school the next day. And then you think, okay, I'm scared a little bit, but I don't know what to do. That's the wrong thing to do, because the next day they may seem fine. If you take them to the emergency room the next day after something like this has happened, and they do this little assessment with them, they'll say, oh, they're not suicidal. They think about suicide, but they're not suicidal. It's not an emergency. And I've had that happen several times. But in the heat of the moment, taking them to the emergency room and they do the assessment, they will then put them in a mental health facility. And this is the importance of that. Some people are scared of it, okay? I don't want to go to Willowbrook, or I don't want to go to a place where they won't let me leave. It feels like somebody's taking your rights away. And that's exactly what's happening. They're taking your rights away because you're not thinking clearly. The child cannot make the decision to whether they want to go to a place or not. They cannot. It's an emergency in that moment. They need to go to a place where they're stabilized, meaning that those emotions are like over 10. From 1 to 10, it's like a 20. They have to go and calm down. They have to go and talk about it. They have to make a plan. They have to learn coping skills. Sometimes they need medication, not all the time, because it's an immediate threat in the moment. They need to have that help. They may have to go to inpatient, okay? After inpatient, sometimes they go to like a group therapy where they can monitor them and make sure they're still not trying to make a plan to hurt themselves. These are important. So when I bring up taking them to the ER in the moment, it's very important, okay? If it's not an immediate threat and they're not actively in the moment of trying to commit suicide, and they tell you that they're thinking about ending their lives, they don't want to live, they feel like they're a big disappointment, no one loves them, all these things, you should reach out to a mental health professional or a therapist. You can do this easily by Googling mental health professionals in my area or mental health in my area, okay? You can do the reviews to see who's good, who's not, and all these different things, but reach out to get a therapist for your child, because talking things through, like the videos have said, helps a lot. And when you're talking about gender or sexuality or depression or religion or a lot of different things that they feel like they can't talk to parents or people around them about, they want someone who will not judge them. They want someone who's just genuinely going to listen to them and let them say whatever they want without any consequences. That's the beauty of therapy. You can say, I hate my mama. The therapist is not going to tell you, I got to tell your mama because you said you hate her. They're not. You can say whatever you want to say in therapy, okay? So encourage, and it's not their choice. This is a lot of times what parents get caught up in. You can tell your child, hey, we're going to school. You can wear this shirt or this shirt, okay? Those are choices. Okay, you can choose to do your homework right after school or get a snack first and then do your homework. That's a choice. You can choose to wash the dishes right after school or before you go to bed, okay? But you cannot make a choice when it comes to mental health or things that are serious where they feel like they may not live past tomorrow. That's when a child should not have a choice. Now, when they go to therapy, if they don't like talking to that specific therapist, as a patient, you have a right to say, I want a different therapist, but you can't say, I don't want therapy when you're thinking about ending your life. Just to be clear to some parents, because some parents believe in children making their own choices. Now, for people who are, who work in the public, let's say, I don't know, you work at a grocery store, you work at a library, you work at a hospital, you work as a police officer, anything like that. There is this thing that we use called the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, okay? It sounds very complicated, but it's really not. If you're interested in watching how anybody, you can be a pastor, a youth leader, and you can ask these questions. You don't have to be a therapist to ask these questions or a psychiatrist. You can ask these questions. They'll tell you the actual questions to ask if you see somebody who has these behaviors that we talked about. So the link is on the slide. I'm not going to go through it because I think it's like a 30-40 minute presentation about it. They give examples of like a police officer asking someone in the neighborhood these questions or whatever. It's to get you familiar with it and comfortable with just asking somebody you don't even know these questions. Because even if you don't know the person and you ask them these questions and it's an immediate threat, you should contact someone and get them some help, okay? All right, this is the plan that I was talking about, the crisis safety plan. Be proactive and make a plan to be successful. If people tell you they have never thought about not living, then they're probably lying. Most people think about this world would be a better place, or my house would be a better place, or I'm causing so much stress, or I can't get past this stuff. It would probably be easier if I wasn't here, okay? Now, if you're consistently feeling that way and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you need to make a plan. On this plan, it's saying things like, I know I'm triggered when I notice. If I notice my heart start racing, okay? Or if I notice that I haven't left the house all weekend, because that's usually not like me. Or if I notice that my little brother, yes, he gets on my nerves, but I can't tolerate being around him at all. But I love my little brother, you know. I notice that if I yell and scream too much, or if I haven't eaten in a whole day. If you notice these things, okay, the next part with the boxes says some good ways to distract myself. Okay, think about things that are specific for you, like I talked about. Maybe cooking your favorite meal. Like I grew up eating these little pizzas called Tortino pizzas, and they're just frozen pizzas. It's no big deal or whatever. But I used to eat them when I was growing up. It's something quick that you can make, that you can eat. But when I eat them, I feel a certain kind of way. Okay. It kind of makes me happy a little bit. Now, I'm not going to eat 5 of them. Okay. I'm going to make one. I'm going to eat that thing and it'll cheer me up. Everybody knows that Miss Syreeta loves Krispy Kreme donuts, you know. If I feel like I want to treat myself, I might go get a couple of them. Okay. But it doesn't always have to be food. It could be doing an activity. I need to go swimming. I need to go walk. I need to contact my friends and go to the mall just to hang out. I need to people watch, okay? These are things to distract yourself. Like I said, if I'm being impatient, I can get on my phone and play my little solitaire game or whatever. Some safe people I can reach out to are who? Who can you talk to that won't tell you business? Okay, everybody has that aunt or that person in their family that talks all the time and say, "Ooh, guess what? She called me and she said this." Okay, these are not the people you're going to have on this list. It'll be someone who you trust that won't tell all your business. And if you don't have anybody that you trust, ask your parents, "Can I go to therapy?" Okay, or go talk to your school counselor if you can trust that school counselor. Okay. Things that help me when I feel this way are, okay, getting fresh air, riding my bike, playing with my dolls, you know, playing with my animals. Now, animals are a great coping skill, guys. You have a little cat or a little dog or something. If you have a little laser and you just move that laser and those cats will go insane. Okay. If you have little toys, you can just throw it and they'll go get it, or like with your dogs. That is a great coping skill. And I encourage people who don't have pets, and if you're not allergic, or if you haven't had any traumatic experiences with pets or animals, to get one. Because it gives the kids a sense of responsibility to help them take care of these animals. And that is someone they don't have to talk to. Someone who's there for them, who's happy to see them at every turn. Animals are great coping skills, okay? Ways to keep myself and my space safe. If you know that I have people who, they say, I have friends who vape, okay? I have friends who do these drugs. I'm curious about this, I'm curious about that. Okay, don't entertain that kind of stuff. If your parents are doing those type of things, say, okay, my safe space is gonna be my room. I'm not gonna have any of that type of thing in my room that's gonna trigger me to wanna feel depressed and sad, okay? Freshen up your space. If you need to change your room around, if you need to clean your room, reorganize your room. If you need to start meal prepping, because that helps you. Set yourself at night, put your stuff that you're going to take to school in a certain area. If you need to set reminders on your phone, those are things that'll help you. Keep your adult coloring book or mandalas and stuff near your bed, or books to read that make you happy. Those type of things, you know. Now, other resources I can use I can get myself care. Okay, so these are 1, 2, 3. The last one is a crisis text line. So you can put number 1, I can call my pastor. Okay. Number 2, I can reach out to my coach, or anything that's specific for you. But number 3 down there is a crisis text line. So how about, I didn't know that you can text 911. I found it out by watching the movie. You can also send a text, because people text now, they don't even talk to people anymore. Okay, if you don't feel comfortable actually having a conversation with someone, you can text the word home, HOME, to that number, 741-741. And you can have a dialogue with someone that you don't know, who will not judge you, and talk about how you feel with that person. Okay? So if you can get this, print it out or write it out, or however you want to come up with your own plan, it may be specific for you. Now, these are some resources here. These resources are a national helpline, okay? You can reach out to them and get information about services that's in your area to get help for depression or for suicidal thoughts, okay? Now, the next one is called Nami. It's a national organization. It has information about groups, like support groups. So there are support groups for everything, any and everything. There are support groups for if people are questioning their gender, their sexuality, if you have anxiety, if you have social issues, if you're a parent who have children who are autistic, if you have anything going on, you can go to that link and you can find a support group in your area if you feel like that'll help you. And some people think, I don't want to sit in a group of people and talk about my problems. The helpful thing about group therapy is, number one, you realize that you're not alone and that you're not the only one going through this, because sometimes you can feel like you are. You can be in a group and not say anything at all. You can tell them your name, just say a little bit of information, and you can listen. By sitting in a group and listening, I don't care if it's a addiction group or someone who has a child who have difficult behaviors, and you're in this group, you can listen and learn things about yourself and about what you can try. So let's say this parent said, it helps my child if I do this. And you say, hey, I've never tried that before, so I'm gonna try that with my kid. Or if you're a child and the person said, my coping skills are, and they talk about all of their coping skills. And you say, I've never thought about this one thing as a coping skill. It can be helpful just to listen to other people talk about their experiences. You can learn from that. I have some books at the bottom too. It's not the end all be all, but they're just a little bit of information. Like this first one is All the Bright Places. It talks about a teenager who was thinking about suicide and not wanting to live anymore. And it gives you suggestions on how to turn that around. Why are you so sad? That's a book for smaller children, for you to read to your kids or read with your children. And then Depression in Your Child. It's very difficult for a happy-go-lucky person who is just very social, because I've had a parent come to me before and they're extrovert and they're happy and they're talented and creative, and they have this kid who is totally opposite from them, who is an introvert, and they're down on themselves and they're not happy at all. It's hard for a parent to adjust to that because they don't understand it. Okay, so this is just a resource for you to use to get some understanding on what that looks like and how you can help your child the best way possible. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about any of the other information that I've shared?
No, I didn't know you can text.
There you go. I didn't know that either. You can text, I mean, texting is the new wave, it's taking over. The good thing about these presentations that I really like is that they're put onto YouTube. So if there's information that I've shared that you say, gosh, I don't remember that one word that was used or whatever, you can write these terms down. You can look this stuff up. You can pause it whenever you want to. You can go back to it 2 months from now. Or let's say that you don't know anybody who's depressed or sad or who've committed suicide, but something happens in the next few months. By the end of the year, you see somebody who's depressed or you see someone who's thinking about suicide. You can come back to this video on YouTube and watch it all over again and get more information. Or if you missed the one about anxiety and stress through difficult times, you can go back and watch that one, or any of the other videos that we've had through Slick.
Okay. You want to give a shout out to your business? Tell people.
Oh, there's a little bit of a waiting list, but the name of the practice that I've joined is called Sheltered Cove. It's located in Douglasville, Georgia. If you are interested in getting some services, you can contact our office. There is a bit of a waiting list in most of the places that are in the Douglasville, Villa Rica, Carroll County area. There's a bit of a waiting list. The best thing to do if you're contemplating getting therapy, if they say it's a month out or 2 months out, fine, set that appointment. Let the person know what your availability is. And that's with a mental health appointment or a regular doctor's appointment if you really need to be seen. Tell them I am available between the hours of 12 and 5 on Thursdays and Fridays. Okay, if they have a cancellation on Thursday or Friday, they'll give you a call and say, hey, I had a cancellation for a 5 o'clock appointment on this day. At that time, you'll have a choice to take that appointment. And it may be earlier. It could be within a week's time that you can be seen. But let them know what your availability is so that you can get in to be seen, okay? And if you want more information about Willowbrook or going inpatient, or if you think that you have someone who may need to do group therapy, you can contact Tanner Health Facilities or look up Willowbrook, and you can just have an assessment. I've had people call me or contact me about relatives who are suffering with substance abuse, or if they're very angry and violent. The same thing applies that if they're thinking about killing themselves, they need to go to the emergency room so they can be assessed, and they can also go inpatient for being violent. So being violent, being suicidal, having substance abuse issues, or if you're considered an unruly child and you're doing unsafe behaviors like sharing information over the internet or running away consistently or just taking risks, you could also go inpatient so that they can stabilize your behavior to see if you are someone who may be bipolar and need medications or those type of things. So you can get an assessment done at Willowbrook. So if anybody else have any questions, I'll answer them. If not, this concludes my presentation.
Going once, going twice. Deja gave you a thumbs up.
Thank you, Deja. I'm sorry about all the technical issues. I promise you I'll get better.
It's a work in progress, work in progress. Well, we want to thank Mrs. Smith for her expertise and taking out time to talk about depression and the signs of suicide and mental health issues with our young people as well as adults. Again, this video will be on YouTube within the next 2 hours, and you all will receive a link. It will be posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So if you don't follow us on Facebook, you follow Slick. I think it's at SLYC.international. But you can also reach Syreeta. You want to put your office line up or your number, give them your number?
Sure. My phone number is 770-949-1595. That's the number to my office if you would like an appointment.
Okay, and she's good. She's funny. She'll make you laugh a lot. I will tell you that. So thank you, Ms. Smith, for pouring into our youth and helping us speak life. Again, this is very important to me. You know, kids are my passion, and I just want to reach as many as I can. So through Slick. And if there's nothing else, Deja, Titus, everyone that's on and that was on, thank you for being a part of this session. We will have another class on next Saturday, the 2nd. It'll be for a purpose, passion, and career. A young guy out of Florida If you can, please log on to that one because he has an awesome testimony. He's been through a lot to be a young guy. And more information will be shared on social media as well. But again, thank you, Mrs. Smith. And you all have a great and wonderful, relaxing day. See y'all later.
Yeah.